Okay, inshallah, we'll go ahead and get started now. And inshallah, others can join when they can join. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi an-Nabi al-Kareem. Allahumma la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana innaka antal alimul hakim. Allahumma la fahma lana illa ma fahamtana innaka antal jawadul kareem. وقل ربي زدني علما. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Thank you all for making the time, even though our schedule was kind of switched around a bit for this last class in our 8-part series on interacting with Hadith, mental health and wellness in Islam. So Jazakumullahu khairan for everyone joining. This will be a 2-hour session, just as a reminder. This will be a 2-hour session. However, I realize, for those of you who received the news already that, mashallah, tomorrow night is the first Taraweeh and Thursday will be the first day of Ramadan. So for the first day of fasting will be this Thursday, inshallah. I'm sure people have things that they need to do in preparation, inshallah. So the first hour of this class, so from 8 to 9 Pacific time, we will have like a regular class. I have slides and everything to talk about what the next subject is or the next topic. And then the next hour from 9 to 10, we will have as open Q&A, open discussion, and open topic, sort of like an open mic on anything specific to mental health and Islam, which is a very broad, obviously very broad category to discuss, but we'll keep it open for Q&A. However, the way that we'll do it is through the chat box. You write your question and inshallah, I'll answer it. So keep that in mind. So throughout the first hour, the first 8 to 9, any questions that you have, write them down somewhere, like on a notebook or on your phone. And then from the next hour, from 9 to 10, you can start writing in your questions. That way we can actually have a pretty good 1-hour discussion. If we get a lot of questions, then I'll answer them just a little bit faster. That way we get through everything. But if we don't get a lot of questions, then of course I'll sort of take my time in the response and see how to respond in the best possible way, inshallah. But that being said, I want everyone to keep this in mind. If you have any questions you want to ask, please write them down, maybe from any other classes that we had, any other topics that we had. Please write them all down, save them, and be ready for the next hour. And then, of course, I want to also just put this out there for everybody. If anybody does not want to or cannot stay for the last hour, then, of course, you are totally free to leave as well. You are free to leave. I will stay here, even if nobody talks and it's just me and 3 people. I will stay for the full hour till 10 o'clock at the very least. And then, we'll wrap it up. So, we'll keep that open, inshallah, for everyone. Okay. So now, if there's any questions, please ask them now. Otherwise, I'm going to go ahead and inshallah get started. Okay. All right. So we, of course, went over this already. Okay. Not 2 classes. We're covering the last class. The last class will be the first hour, and then the second hour will be the Q&A, inshallah. So it'll be open discussion, open dialogue, and we'll go from there, inshallah. That'll be the plan for tonight. Yeah. So you guys should have access to these talks. If you registered for this class, you should have the email access. But let me just quickly send a message to ensure. Yeah, let me just send a quick message to ensure if you registered. Give me 1 second. Okay, so the email that you received, I think the first email you received, the link should be included in there for in the first email for this class, the link was there. Let me see, we'll try to send another one out. Okay, so we just got confirmed, inshallah, that we'll have an email. So look out for this next email coming right like sometime tonight, possibly. That email will have the link for all the previous classes. So that way you could access it, inshallah. I just got that confirmation, okay? And if you're not registered, then just let me know, at which point then I'll have to figure out a way to register you, inshallah. Otherwise, you're not going to be receiving any emails. So, okay. Okay, so to continue on, we are still working on this subject, and we will be concluding with this category on parenting and tarbiyah. And the whole idea behind this is that mental health oftentimes is associated to, a crazy person, a homeless person, a person who needs drugs or medications, people we see, we have a depiction of someone who we assume maybe has schizophrenia or, I don't know, suicidality. So then we think, oh, this person has mental health issues. So in understanding this subject, I wanted to create 3 separate categories, which is what I did. The first one was that we went over in this whole class series was on depression, sadness, loneliness, end of life, etc. The second category we focused on was love and marriage and romantic relationships. And the third is parenting and tarbiyah, and what is the best prophetic model by which we can exemplify this. And of course, just as a recap, why is this even an important subject? Because oftentimes people don't know how to be a parent. Who am I supposed to emulate? Who am I supposed to look after? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions, لَقَدْ كَانَ لَكُمْ فِي رَسُولِ اللَّهِ أُسْوَةٌ حَسَنَةٌ. That in the example of the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is a perfect example. Uswatun hasana is a beautiful example. So meaning that in all categories of his life, it's beautiful for us. And it's something we should abide by and follow and use as a sort of a rubric, a paradigm by which we should identify how we want to live. And this, of course, is across all categories and subjects, including parenting and tarbiyah. So we saw in this series, we saw Luqman from the Quran. We saw the story of Luqman and his son, right? And we went over all of those subjects, all those categories where look at all the things Luqman was teaching his son, which is beautiful, right? We learned all these various like traits or qualities. Okay. Okay. Then we learned all these things about what it means to have a father in your life, what it means to have someone of guidance, an elder, And that's what we covered in the first class. And we went over that in detail. Right? I mean, of course, there was so many concepts here that we shared with regards to Luqman and his story. So many different areas that we were able to cover and to discuss, and what it means from a parent's point of view, and why it's so important to have that tarbiyah and that wisdom from an elder. We live in a generation and in a society that doesn't honor our elders and doesn't value their opinions and doesn't value their concerns, right? We had even gone to this extent that well, I think there's a study here. Yeah. Fatherless children have more difficulties with social adjustment and are more likely to report problems with friendships and manifest behavioral problems. These are societal issues that come from a lack of tarbiyah. Like, we're talking about, if we have a problem and if we don't like the way our streets are filled with, reckless behavior and a lack of morality, dignity, consideration. Take the simplest example. Why do we litter? Why do we take our trash and we litter and we throw it out the window? We throw it onto the street. Why do we do that? What is the rationale behind ignoring a fundamentally simple concept, which is, I live on this street, I have to walk on this street every day. Why don't I just keep that trash in my bag or in my pocket until I get to my destination and throw it away? Yet I am irked by the idea of having to hold this little plastic thing in my hand, and let me just get rid of it right now. So the idea is that these concepts, these things are either because you didn't learn them, or you didn't think they were important, or you never had the training to inform you and to keep you molded in this understanding that there are certain things you should take into consideration. There are certain things that are important. There are certain areas that require that type of attention to detail. And, or even this idea that, you don't live for just today, you live for tomorrow, right? Like when you have a public park and they say, please don't vandalize, please don't ride skateboards here or whatever. The idea is that because, yes, you want to enjoy that right now and do those things, but you're going to damage it for the next generation. Certain parks don't allow you to climb trees. Certain parks don't let you, cut down trees or whatever. Why? For the preservation of that area. And yet we go and we vandalize, we go and we destroy things. And so my point is that why it's generally a lack of this recognition or cognition, the lack of this parental supervision. So on that note, I wanted to share sort of for tonight's class 3 or 4 hadith, that they're shorter hadith. Maybe the discussions on them will be shorter, but they are all a hadith that are to the point and all have something to do with this category of tarbiyah or parenting or that type of guidance or reformation. Okay, so we'll start with first one. Now, before we begin, again, as a gentle reminder to everybody, this first hour will be this presentation. The next hour will be open Q&A. So if you have any questions with regards to mental health in Islam, whether about these subjects we covered or something else, please make note of your question, write it down somewhere, save it, so that when we hit the hour, we can start right away with the Q&A section, inshallah. Okay? I don't want it to be like, now I'm starting to think, oh, what should I ask? Start that from now. You have a whole hour, inshallah, to plan. Okay? So we'll start with the first hadith. This hadith we did already. Okay, hold on. Just let's keep going. Here. Okay. So, so this is the hadith. Let me just make sure I have all the information for it. So just take a look at the hadith. Where did it go? Sorry, give me 1 second. Okay, sorry. So this is a hadith that's narrated in Bukhari and Muslim, where the Sahabi is mentioning that كنت غلاما في حجر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم وكانت يدي تطيش في صفحة يعني يصل إلى محل بعيد فقال لي رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم يا غلام سم الله وكل بيمينك وكل مما يليك. Okay. So then the translation is that I was a young boy. I don't know why this doesn't have the Sahabi's name. I had this written here. Now I have to double check that. Inshallah, I'll get this information just before the end. I had put this here originally. I'm just checking for this. Okay. So in any case, I'll have to double check which Sahabi this is. So for some reason, I didn't write it down. So he mentions that I was a young boy sitting in the lap of the Prophet ﷺ, and I would eat food from all over the plate, meaning from different parts of the plate. وَكَانَتْ يَدِي تَطِيشُ فِي الصَّحْفَةِ. So this basically means that the plate, imagine a plate, and instead of eating from right in front of me, I would eat from here and here, from the middle, from the back. I would grab meat from here and there, like that. And then the Prophet ﷺ would say, said to me, young man, take the name of Allah. So take the name of Allah. وَكُلْ بِيَمِينِكَ. Eat with your right hand. And eat what's in front of you. وَكُلْ مِمَّا يَلِيكَ. Eat which that is from that which is directly in front of you. Okay. So this is the hadith. Okay. And now we have to identify what was the key takeaways from this hadith in terms of key concepts. Okay. So let's just take a quick moment and identify what you thought in the chat were key concepts from this hadith. What were your takeaways from this hadith? What were the lessons? Let's take a couple of moments and just quickly get like 2 or 3 responses. And I apologize, I'm distracted. I'm just going to get the name of the Sahabi because I had it in my notes and now I can't find it, so I need to find it. Okay, so the Sahabi's name was Umar ibn Abi Salama. Umar ibn Abi Salama was a Sahabi who's narrating this hadith. Yeah, I accidentally deleted this, but in any case, okay. All right, good. So we got some responses here. Etiquettes when eating, consideration for others, being organized, correcting and modeling good behavior to children. Very good, very interesting takeaway. Social and eating rules. Okay, good. Balance of affection, sitting in the lap. Good, with admonition. That's a very good observation. I'm glad someone picked up on that, even though it seems pretty obvious because that's what it says. But at the same time, it says it in such a way that it's you're identifying that behavior directly and clearly. I apologize. 1 second. Okay, there we go. So correcting, modeling behavior to children, social and eating rules, balance of affection, sitting in the lap. Correct. Okay, good. So now, when we explore what the concepts are, here are some of the things that are some takeaways from this hadith. Right now, when we're identifying the behavior, we're identifying exactly what happened chronologically. Even though that doesn't matter as much, but it does have some significance. Where children sit during meals. So this one, Shaykh mentioned the sitting in the lap. So I'm just expanding on that, right? Where children sit during the meals in a lot of Western culture is on the kids' table, separate from the adults' table. They're not sitting by adults, right? Generally, maybe there's one or two people there, but there's a separate dedicated section for them. Number two, in this hadith, they were under the supervision of the elders. The Prophet ﷺ was managing this Umar ibn Abi Salama, his practice, whatever he was doing. Guidance on how to eat. How? Where was the guidance? Here. وَكَانَتْ يَدِي تَطِيشُ فِي الصَّحْفَةِ, that my hand was going all over the place to find food to eat and to eat, like, all over the plate. So guidance on how to eat was وَكُلْ مِمَّا يَلِيكَ, and eat from that which is directly in front of you first. Methodology of prophetic practice during meals. So yes, all that was technical, but exactly the model the Prophet ﷺ is explaining, that is exactly the prophetic method. So on both ends, right? One is, these are some good practices to take in mind, but on another end, understanding that this whole concept is the model of eating, right? So it's not just that, what did he say here? Take the name of Allah, start with Bismillah, eat with your right hand, and then eat with the food which is directly in front of you. It wasn't such that it's just each one of these things are random points. This model, 1, 2, 3 in this order, is part of the prophetic model. And number 5, do not scold the child. And that's not what we saw. We didn't see anything like that. Now imagine how messy that could look. Imagine how dirty that can look. Imagine how, especially if there's people around, how distracted you may look. But number 1, the child wasn't scolded. And children, mind you, obviously are maybe not all fully going to listen to those commandments. So maybe this Umar ibn Abi Salama was a little bit older. Maybe he was 5, 6 years old, 7, 8 years old. He was a young man, young boy. Maybe he was 9 or 10. And this is the prophetic way of modeling this behavior to him. Now, this is important because now these are only just 5 takeaways from this, right? There's five takeaways from this hadith. Not too difficult. But look, يعني يصل إلى محل بعيد. His hands were going all over the place. Now, sometimes I'll also mention something since this is related to food. There's a lot of interesting things about eating food from the prophetic model of eating food that are very spiritual, very, very spiritual. Someone might ask, why وَكُلْ مِمَّا يَلِيكَ, eat which is that directly in front of you? Okay, why would that be important? And obviously, for the sake of orderliness and for the sake of it being with etiquette, you'll eat the food which is directly in front of you. That's fine. There's another hadith that talks about when a dig or a big plate is brought, which is like like the family style platter bowls are brought where we cook rice or whatever it is, and everybody takes from there. The Prophet ﷺ mentions that when food is presented, take from the sides of the food so that we come from the outside towards the inside, and then we take from the inside. But don't take food directly from the inside, the center of the meal. Why? Because when it is food time, the barakah descends directly upon the middle of the food, and it spreads out to the edges of the plate. So if you take from the center of the meal, it's as if you've taken all the barakah out of the meal, and you've removed the barakah in the meal, the blessings of the meal. So the etiquettes are that you take from the sides. Now, naturally, if you come to this plate, you're going to take from in front of you. You're going to take from what's in front of you. And that way you go around the edges before you go in from the inside. And this is an etiquette. Now, subhanAllah, we teach our families this. We should teach our children this, that when food comes, eat from in front of you. Say the name of Allah. Say Bismillah. Eat with your right hand. Or if you have a spoon, whatever, eat with your right hand. Some people make the argument, well, I'm left-handed. Okay, that's fine. You'll learn to eat with your right hand, though. Yeah, you'll write with your left hand. You'll, put your clothes on with your left hand, but you're going to eat with your right hand. I had someone even tell me, they're like, food doesn't taste the same when I eat with my right hand. Literally, someone told me that. they're like, food doesn't taste the same when I eat with my right hand because they're left-handed. I said, well, guess what? Get accustomed to the new taste, get accustomed to it. I don't care if it hurts your brain, it hurts your brain. These are the etiquettes that we have to take into consideration when we're, following the sunnah. You want to follow a prophetic model, then do so. It is not that much taklif to cause, it's the end of the world because I'm left-handed, but I have to eat with my right hand. No. There was even a story, this very famous story, that there was a man who came and he sat in front of the Prophet and they were eating, and the Prophet saw him eat with his left hand, so he says, Kul bi yaminik. He says, the Prophet said, eat with your right hand. He says, La astati'. So then the Prophet says, La astata'. That this person, the Prophet said to him, eat with your right hand. He goes, I can't. And then the Prophet says, no, you won't be able to. Because he said that as a response to be arrogant back to the Prophet. And, this was his nifaq, his hypocrisy. That he says, no, I can't. I can't eat with my left hand. So then the Prophet says, no, you won't be able to. And then from that moment on, he was handicapped, incapable of eating, bringing food to his own mouth. So my point is that we should take this adab and etiquette into consideration. And number two, we should follow this prophetic model. Okay, so let's continue. And here's another thing. So the power of consistency. This is what was very interesting. Why is it so important that we maintain consistency in our guidelines, right? You eat every day. You eat 3-4 times a day. You have to do this every single time? Yes, I have to do this every single time. What does that teach us and teach our children? Number one, consistency means that we follow through with what we say we're going to do. It gives power to our words. You're going to start, we're going to sit, we're going to eat all together. We're going to start with Bismillah, we're going to eat with our right hands, and we're going to eat the food in front of us. Consistency allows boundaries and expectations to be set, which actually provides children with a sense of safety. This setting the dastarkhan, the sufra, the rug to sit and eat food, the dinner table, setting the table, being organized, being committed, sitting down, everyone saying Bismillah together, starting the meal together, etc. It is, oddly enough, incredibly difficult for the modern family to do. And I know maybe this seems like I'm exaggerating a bit. Go to the modern household and see if this happens. The reality is not this. The reality is this. The reality is the computer, is the TV, is the phone, is the fact that people are not sitting together eating. No one is saying Bismillah together. Subhanallah, I remember since I was a child, I remember when food would be ready and we would have a big get together with my grandfather. He would sit at the head of the table. All the men would sit at the table. Everybody else would sit on the floor, dastarkhan, on the sufra, on the floor. And we couldn't eat, even if we got the food and we're standing there. Nobody could start until my grandfather started saying, he started by saying, Bismillah ala barakatillah. And then he would say, Ameen, and then they would start eating. And then when the meal would conclude, no one could get up and leave until he made the dua, Alhamdulillah alladhi at'amana wa saqana wa ja'alna muslimin. Like nobody could leave until he made the concluding dua. So it's not like fard or anything. It's not like mandatory. But again, it shows the significance of this. It shows the significance of the barakah that comes and that consistency that comes, that now 30 years later, we see that people are still following these sort of guidelines, perhaps in a different time, perhaps in a only when we get together. But on the individual basis, a lot of this is unfortunately lost. Structure and routine also help kiddos learn how to control their behavior. Again, now we're talking about tarbiyah and parenting. Look at your children. A lot of parents talk about how like my kid has OCD. Oh, my kid can never focus. Well, what are we putting in front of them? Like at the time of, can children actually sit quietly? Yes, they can. But can they? No, they can't. Yeah, because that's not how they're trained anymore, right? We always have something in front of them. They won't eat food. Literally, children won't eat food without a screen in their face. They'll argue, they'll fight, they'll scream, but they won't eat food, okay? And what is that going to do? It's going to destroy order. It's going to destroy the order in that child's life. And as much as people like to disagree and argue that, no, I let my child have this, that, and the other, children thrive on structure. So without it, we're actually jeopardizing them ourselves intentionally. So what are some things that we can do? So these are some interventions to help support this. Number one, first and foremost, make sure both parents are on the same page and respond in similar ways to poor behavior, implementing the same structure and discipline for specific behaviors. So if your kid's not sitting, you all have to be on the same page on how you react. If your children's not sitting on the dastarkhan at food time, shut down everything. Or no food, take the food away. You have 10 minutes to sit down, 5 minutes to sit down. I'm going to count to 10. If you don't sit down, no food for you tonight. You're going to go to bed hungry. That might be hard, but whatever it is that you decide on, both parents should be on the same page. Pick a few priority behaviors to start with and implement a consistent response. Find something you can do consistently. Many people don't speak their mother tongue at home. They speak English. And this is something I have gripes with personally, because if you live in America and you don't have plans to go anywhere, you will learn English better than any other subject, any other language. So at least at home, preserve your mother tongue. You speak Farsi, Pashto, Urdu, Arabic, Hindi, whatever you speak at home. Especially if English is your second language, but you choose to speak English, you are doing the biggest disservice. You might say, oh, well, my kids don't understand me. That's their problem. Let them try to figure you out. But it's an injustice. Why? Because then those children are going to lose their language. In any case, that's not directly related, but you could pick that and say, we're only going to speak, Farsi at home. We're only going to speak our language at home. Start a routine. Routines help in so many ways. They eliminate power struggle. Why? Because you just have to do it. It's not about whether I have a choice or not. You're going to brush your teeth. You're going to go to sleep. That's our routine. That's it. That's bedtime. There's no books. There's no games. There's no movies. There's no fighting. There's no toys. There's no eating. Give kids a sense of security and develop self-discipline. Absolutely. They help kids get on a schedule. Absolutely. They help kids learn the concept of looking forward to things they enjoy, but also that there are things in life we need to do that are not our most favorite things, but are necessary. This is one of the most important categories here. You do not get to do what you want all the time. Now, if we go back to the hadith itself, the child was doing what he was accustomed to doing. But the hadith teaches us that it doesn't matter. That's how my kid eats. It doesn't matter. That's not how he should be, though. Oh, my kid won't eat any other way. Well, you should start with this. Teach them, especially once your children get a little bit older. I mean, we can understand this from a kid point of view, right? Imagine a 22-year-old young man or young woman eating like that. You would look at them and think this caveman just descended from 5,000 years ago out of the, mountains. He was trapped for all of civilization and just found food for the first time. Like eating all over the plate, and with two hands stuffing his face, like disgusting, Help parents maintain consistency and expectations. That's right. That's what this does. That's what consistency does. Choose action over talking, meaning don't just sit there and threaten. Do something. Shut them down. Don't allow this behavior to continue. Now, you can do what's called gentle startups, which is to slowly introduce this. But eventually you have to get to a point of comfortability to where this will not continue, this behavior. Now, the other thing is some people say well, what if my kid is, throwing a tantrum, they're going to kill themselves and all this sort of stuff. So this is where you can have some flexibility. So yes, you can have flexibility. You can budge a little bit, but sometimes rules need to be bent, but choose those times carefully. Explain the reason for the change to the child and help them understand. But do not make this the rule. This is the exception. When we make this the rule, then kids know right away. Oh, just cry a little bit. Mom and dad will give in. Don't worry. And, it doesn't seem fair. It doesn't seem balanced or whatever it is. But unfortunately, the reality is that there's nothing really else that we can do other than accept it for what it is. That children will take advantage of you if you don't make all the right steps or take all the right steps in the right direction. So that's something we really need to pay attention to. Okay. So that was this first hadith. Talks about food, talks about taking the name of Allah, eating with your one's right hand, and eating with that which is in front of you. We explore these core areas. The child sits with the parents. The child sits with the murabbi. This child was not the child of the Prophet ﷺ, but he was a child that was with the Prophet ﷺ. Another takeaway, maybe your child will eat with his grandfather. Maybe your child will eat with his elder. Maybe your younger brother won't sit next to you. Maybe he'll only sit with his mom. That's okay, as long as the rules are met, right? That's okay. He learns the wisdom. He learns the tarbiyah of how to eat food. So hadith number 2. Oh, subhanAllah, we're already at 8:40. Okay. Khair. Okay. Hadith number 12. This is the second hadith for tonight. من قال لصبي تعال هاك ثم لم يعطيه فهي كذبة. Okay. The one who says to a child, come take this, but has nothing to actually give, has committed a lie, has lied. And this is very, very common. Most people are guilty. It's kind of like saying, come here, look what I have, come here. And you're saying it to a kid, and then the kid comes and you just grab them because you wanted to kiss them, or you wanted to, do whatever to them to grab their attention. What is that? That's a lie, right? So, next step, key concepts, key takeaways. Let's take a couple of seconds, or a couple minutes rather, and let's get some responses. What are some takeaways from this? I'm sure we can get at least, let's see, at least three different ones. What are some takeaways? Let's write in the chat box. Maintaining integrity with kids. It's important to lead by example. Okay. Making sure kids don't grow up learning that it's okay to lie. Okay. Emphasize the virtue of honesty. Good. Not to disappoint kids, break their hearts. Good. Very good. These are good responses. So, a couple of things here, right? Lying, very obvious one. Number 2, deceit, which is different than lying, because now we've taught deception. We've introduced a concept of deception. Lack of trust. We're developing a child's vulnerabilities of not being able to trust an adult or trust someone that they know or love. Number 4, breach of boundaries between child and adult. We've introduced a new core concept for this child. Their brain has to wrap around the idea that this is an area that there is no, that can be, I could breach this. Imagine this is your own child or whatever. Now, the child only sees his mom and his dad as a pure place of trust and a place of complete security, and it gets breached. Now, a person, again, look, where is it? Here. This hadith is not, to most people, this is not groundbreaking, right? This isn't going to shake your whole world. You're not going to look at this and say, oh my God. But what's interesting is that what can happen by introducing to a child a lie? If you're a parent, or if you have very small children, siblings, look, that purity, that honesty, that sincerity, that pureness in their heart, right? We then introduce a lie to them because we think it's cute, because we think, oh, I just love you so much. But you're actually introducing deceit, khiyana. kidb, lying, distrust. You are the one who is giving that child this quality. You know, they say, the ulama mention that that as a parent, when you're raising your children, parents should, take pride in being able to say, I taught my kids the kalima. I taught my kids to recite the Quran. I taught my kids to the qaida. Why? Because now for the rest of that child's existence, every prayer, every dhikr, every Quran, every letter that comes out of their mouth with religion, you get the reward of it. Okay? Because you literally taught your child to say Allah. You taught them to say their kalima. Now you get the reward of that. That's something fantastic. Now, what happens if your kid turns out to be a hafiz of Quran? Now she or he is going to go and teach thousands of other kids, hundreds, dozens. You're going to lead Taraweeh, right? Taraweeh is coming, inshallah. Your kid is on the minbar. Your kid is teaching people. Your kid is literally giving people Quran. But imagine you are the one who introduced deceit. You are the one who introduced lying. Every lie that comes after that lie, every deception that comes after that deception, every khiyana and mistrust that comes after that first one, who's racking it up? We have to think like that. We have to think like that. That's kind of scary, right? You kind of get goosebumps after thinking that. Like, oh my God, الدال على الخير كفاعله أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. The one who guides towards goodness, gets the reward as if you did that act of khair, even if you didn't. Right? If you told someone, hey, if you want to do something, this community needs a well. Oh, subhanAllah, I didn't know that. Let me do that. Oh, you know what? If you want a place to give your zakat, this family is broke. They need support, but they're not telling anyone. Oh, okay. It's as if you gave your zakat. You also get the reward of the guy who actually gave it. The same can be said about the one who does an evil action. Habil killed his brother Habil, the two children of Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. The ulama mentioned, I believe it's a hadith, I don't want to misquote, mentioned that every act of zulm that takes place for the rest of eternity, Habil gets the jaza and the punishment of that as well. It goes into his bank account, his savings account of his punishment and his azab. Every act of zulm that takes place until eternity, Qabil continues to receive that for the rest of eternity as well. So, my respected brothers and sisters, when we talk about this, that lie, let us not be the one to introduce that lie. Why? Because what are some additional harms that come from this? Okay. So I want to just share a study. This study was very surprising. When I read this, I was like, oh man, add more guilt, subhanAllah. This first quote is from a study, a 2021 study that says that we should consider this experiment, which was basically a study that showed what the effect of introducing a lie to children, what effect it had. It shows that a child's immediate reaction to a single act of lying, it changed their behavior. Sorry. So children ages 5 and up, it changed their behavior permanently. Young adults who remembered greater exposure to parenting by lying were more likely to report lying to their parents more frequently in adulthood. They also showed higher levels of psychological maladjustment. They were more likely to suffer from aggressive behavior problems and antisocial personality problems. Again, the idea here is when we lie to kids, they may view this as the green light to lie back to us. And if we don't take steps to repair the trust, we may pay long-term costs. The initial quote here, this first one actually, I think I cut off the actual point of it right here. The point was for children 5 years old and older, when you introduce a lie to them, that lie that first time you lie to them will have such a detrimental effect to that child that for the rest of that child's life may make it impossible for that child to no longer engage in that behavior. Meaning, let me see the exact conclusion, that this 2021 study basically showed on children that a single instance of an adult lying to a child can skew their perception of deceit for the rest of their life until they learn the skill to undo lying for themselves. And who knows exactly how long that can take. For some people, they never learn it. What does that mean? That means that once you introduce lying to a child, for some children, they never learn to not lie. That's what that means. I let that sink in for a moment. When you introduce lying to a child, some children, they never learn to stop lying. That's how damaging it is, even if it's done once. Meaning, the first time you introduce lying to a child, children, some of them, will never learn, I shouldn't do this. Some may learn later on in life, you're 20, 30, then you're like, lying has gotten me into a lot of trouble. I should probably stop. Some never stop. And guess who was the cause of that? It could be us. That's powerful. That's actually kind of scary too. I mean, it is scary. It's very scary. If you were the reason by which your child learned the skill of lying and then kept going at it forever, Allah protect us and our children. Okay. And okay, so this is the next hadith I wanted to introduce here. Again, remember, all of this has to do with tarbiyah. All this has to do with raising children, the role of raising children, how we want to raise children, etc. من كان له ثلاث بنات أو ثلاث أخوات أو بنتان أو أختان فأحسن صحبتهن واتقى الله فيهن فله الجنة. Okay, this is an amazing hadith. Anyone who has 3 daughters or 3 sisters, أو ثلاث أخوات, or 3 sisters, or 2 daughters, or 2 sisters, and he ensures their good treatment, and he fears Allah with regards to them, that person receives Jannah. That person receives Jannah. Okay? Mind you, now, this doesn't say whether that person is a man or a woman. Right? Let's read that again. Man kana. Man means it's genderless. Anyone. Lahu thalathu banatin. Anyone who has 3 daughters. Aw thalathu akhawatin. Or has 3 sisters. Aw bintani. Or has aw ukhtani, 2 sisters. And then he treats them well. فَأَحْسَنَ صُحْبَتُهُنَّ. And he treats them well. And you're God conscious with regards to them. You don't do zulm on them. You don't do any mistreatment of them. You're God conscious. You treat them Islamically. Falahu al-Jannah. And I'm sure this is the only damir that's masculine. Falahu. It says for him is paradise. But I think we can extend this over to whether it's a male or a female. I guess I didn't really think this technically through, but in any case, I think this can also be applicable. They receive paradise. I think that damir, that pronoun goes back to, or that in any case, that goes back to, it could be male or female, but in any case, I think that's going to be fair here. This could probably mean both. No, I know that damir that goes back to to the masculine falahu. This goes back to the male, but I think in this context, this is referring to, just for the sake of the sentence grammatically to follow in suit. In any case, that's a bit of a tangent. The point is, look how important this hadith is. If you have 3 daughters or 3 sisters, 2 daughters or 2 sisters, and you took care of them, Allah gives you Jannah. Is this not tarbiyah? This is all of tarbiyah right here. So much can be said about this. So much. Look at the harms of how girls are treated. I don't even want to open up the door of culture. I don't even want to open up the discussion on mistreatment of young women in families. Not forget about this. Has nothing to do with husband and wife, right? Thalathu banat or akhawat. Yeah. So this has nothing to do with like husband-wife relationship. This is exclusively daughter-sister relationship. So this is talking about the treatment of our women folk, of our girls. You know, I'm a father of 2 girls. This is very big deal. You know, my wife, for example, has 2 sisters and 2 daughters. So double. And subhanAllah, your mistreatment or your not being kind or considerate or loving or supporting or caring or whatever can be the gatekeeper to whether or not you get Jannat or not, you get paradise or not. SubhanAllah, now imagine those fathers, imagine those mothers. You know, some mothers are harder on their girls than the father. And then opposite can also be said. Fathers are harder on their daughters than the mother. Both is problem everywhere, unfortunately. The idea, however, is فَأَحْسَنَ صُحْبَتَهُنَّ. Yeah, that you have to treat them well. Now, key concepts, key takeaways. Let's take a couple minutes. Let's get 2 or 3. I think we can get 3 or 4 actually from this. Let's get a couple of responses. What do you think are the key? I mean, we talked about just a couple of them now, but what do you think are some of the key takeaways from here? Let's get a couple of responses. What are some key takeaways from here that you guys can see right away? Okay, good. What else? That's right. Ensuring, why not one? I think there's another hadith actually that corroborates this point. I think there's another hadith. I didn't come across it while I was reviewing for this, but I think there's another hadith that also talks about this, that if you have even one daughter, inshallah, if I find that hadith, I'll send it. But I think that also there's another hadith that mentions one. But for the sake of this particular hadith, it mentions okay, yeah, the hadith concerning daughters says one. Yeah, so I know that there was one hadith like that. I had read it. No, it's not. If you're it's not a selfish question. Everybody wants Jannat, right? So we got to ask. Definitely, it's a good question. How can I get Jannat? I only have one daughter. That's okay. That's a good comment. It's not selfish at all. So, okay. What were some of the other comments? Okay, so protecting women, the relationships that we have in this world, specifically the mentioned ones, will either take us to Jannah or Jahannam. Huquq al-ibad lies at the heart of our deen. What if they are adopted? Oh, subhanallah. So interesting. I don't know. I really don't know. That's a good question, though. But here's what I'll say, and I'm saying this totally from myself, okay? This is just my assessment on that. Adopted children, they're not your biological children, right? But you get the reward of raising a yatim, right? Oh, mashallah. Brother responded with the same comment. So, but you get the reward of raising a yatim. Maybe they're not yatim. Maybe their parents are alive, but you know, they put them up for adoption, etc. But the point is that you are doing ta'deeb, you are raising them, and you are taking care of them. Again, mind you, I'm not saying this based on a hadith. I'm just saying this from my own assessment. So as long as we make sure that's clear, I feel like in this instance, anyone who does goodness to raising a child and doing well upon them, inshallah, I have hope that you would also get the same reward. You raised them like your own. You treated them like your own. You took care of them like your own. Allah is too merciful to not reward you in kind. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala a'lam, Allah knows best in how He will reward who He rewards, how He will reward them. Okay, I think that's a safe place to leave that. So now let's explore this here. So this was some of the points that I had put together. Okay. Protecting our family structure. Someone had wrote a comment, protecting our women. Totally valid. Protecting our family structure. Why? We are protecting the women of our home, right? We are protecting the women in our lives. The women are everything. If we don't protect women, what in the world are we doing? Right? If we don't have that consideration as guardians, mind you, this is not men or women. This is not male or female here. This is protecting our women. You have daughters, you have sisters. Guard them, protect them, save them, treat them well. Now, here's another very interesting thing, just as an important side point. It says, فَأَحْسَنَ صُحْبَتَهُنَّ. You treat them well, and you fear Allah with regards to them. You taking care of your women folk in this way can mean so many things. It can mean who you marry them off to. It can mean what type of upbringing you give them, what kind of treatment you provide, education, food, clothing, love, care, emotional support, physical support, protection, money, whatever it means. But it also can mean, and I'm going to say this as a therapist in me, that what happens to our women, what happens to our sisters, what happens to our daughters, when they were married and they took care of their homes, raised children, have no income or support structure aside from their husbands, and then they get divorced. What happens to those women? They need their wali. They need someone to take that responsibility and bring them back. And take them back and take care of them and look after them and to support them and to be there for them and not to let them feel like they lost and not to let them feel like they're a loser, that they are a failure, that they are beggars. I want to wear, as they say, wearing rose-colored glasses. You see the whole world that way. If you wear rose-colored glasses, you see the whole world as rosy. So I want to wear like naive glasses and assume that anyone who has daughters or sisters, that if their daughter or sister were to get divorced and they have nothing because they were a housewife or they took care of their children or they raised the home, and now they have nothing, they have no income, they have no way to support their kids, they have no way to pay their bills. I am naive and I want to assume in a very naive way that no father would reject his daughter. And he would say, open doors, come home, come, I'll take care of everything you need. Bring your children, come to me, I'll take care of you. Or I'll support you in whatever way you need your support. Don't worry about it, I got you. I want to assume that a brother will say about a sister, come to my house. I know I'm married, I know I have a wife, I know I have kids of my own, but let me see how I can support you in whatever way that I can support you. Don't worry about it, you're my sister. Right? I want to be naive and assume that. This, I know we're talking about tarbiyah here, but this is, look how much this opens up the Pandora's box to further discussion. How could we as a society, how our own sister, our own daughters are getting divorced for whatever circumstance, okay? We cannot leave them high and dry on the streets. We cannot imagine this idea that a person would put themselves in a haram situation. A woman would put herself in a haram situation to cover her bills because her male support structures aren't going to help her. So, and this actually goes back to another discussion, which is the role of the wali during the nikah. When you have a wali, the wali isn't a ceremonious figurehead who just shows up and says, I give you permission, you can take this girl. The wali is this person. I mean, the wali is essentially going to be this person who is like, yeah, I'm the lawyer of my this woman, this daughter of mine, or this sister of mine. I am her lawyer. Everything that needs to happen, it goes through me. And I'm her lawyer for life. Anything that needs to happen, I'm the guy. Come to me. Any arguments, I'll take care of it. Any issues, I'll take care of it. And then God forbid, the marriage doesn't go well, she's coming back to me. That's my role. That's who I am. That's who I am. And you make that very clear, that till the day I'm alive, that I have her back. I have her responsibility. And you know, that's why I said I want to wear my naive glasses and assume this way about all of those people in this position. But that's the role that we should, as a society, explain it this way, you know, or to believe it this way. Right. And this comment, absolutely, not all women have that. And I totally get that. Either because maybe you don't physically have that person in your life, or because that person doesn't treat you that way, or they don't know this, they don't recognize it, they don't believe it. But that's where we should be as a society. That's where we need to go. When you are getting married and you're interested in marriage, think like this also. When you have your first kid, think like this also. If you have a son, as your son gets older, ready to be married, teach him these etiquettes, teach him this adab, that you're going to marry. I think I mentioned this to this group, even though it's not directly relevant, but just a point. In Ibn Kathir, he mentions in this verse that وَمِنْ آيَاتِهِ أَنْ خَلَقَ لَكُم مِّنْ أَنفُسِكُمْ أَزْوَاجًا لِتَسْكُنُوا إِلَيْهَا وَجَعَلَ بَيْنَكُم مَّوَدَّةً وَرَحْمَةً إِنَّ فِي ذَلِكَ لَآيَاتٍ لِقَوْمٍ يَتَفَكَّرُونَ. That a successful marriage has three qualities: has sukun, tranquility; mawadda, love; rahma, mercy. Imam Ibn Kathir mentions that if for one of the reasons why a man could divorce his wife, but he chooses not to, is in his recognizing that this woman sacrificed her life, her health, her body, her time to take care of my family, even though I may have fallen out of love with her, I recognize what she has sacrificed for me. Therefore, I will not divorce her. Someone needs to teach men that, right? Maybe there's some, and I know there's a million other things we can add here, but for the sake of this discussion, I'm going to stop here so we can keep on going. But I just want to mention this, right? Like, we need to teach our young men this. Maybe you have a falling out of love. You've been married 20 years and yeah, I don't know. It's not there no more for me. Whatever that means. So you look at what she sacrificed for you. She sacrificed her youth, her health, her body, her everything, her time for you, for raising a family with you. And now all of a sudden you don't like her because she's not, 25 years old anymore, and she's not what she used to look like anymore. And so you want to divorce her? No, you look at that and say, I recognize, subhanAllah, she went through all this for me. No, you know what? I'll stay married with her. I'm not going to divorce her. Put her out on the streets like that. Make her figure out how to finance everything on her own like that. No, she sacrificed a lifetime with me. What is she going to do? Where is she going to get money from? I know that. I'm not dumb. That's the mother of my children. That's what Ibn Kathir mentions. One of the reasons why you would not divorce a woman. So khair. The role of the male figure, I just went over that, right? The role of the wali, the role of, what his job is, what his responsibilities are, etc. Right? How important that is. The value of women. Your treatment of the women in your life is your key to paradise. And this is not me saying, you get like a free pass or whatever, but think about it this way, that what if, subhanAllah, you weren't the best person in the world, like religiously, but you had the most love and consideration for your family. You did everything in your capacity to take care of them, to never let them feel down. You took care of your daughters, you took care of your sisters. You were that person that they knew they could turn to you no matter what. They committed a wrong, they committed a sin, they did something haram, whatever. They knew they could always come back to you. Why? Because you would protect them. You would guard them. You would do goodness by them. Your doors were always open to them. that is your ticket to paradise. That maybe your other good deeds that you did will not, but just that quality may. There's an ayah in the Quran I wanted to, in relation to this. There's an ayah of the Quran that mentions that one of the qualities of the reasons of the people who entered into paradise was because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, let me see if I can find that exact verse. This just came to my mind right now, so I apologize. Okay, yeah, here. In Surah Tur, so in Surah Tur, verse 26, the ayah says, قالوا إنا كنا قبل في أهلنا مشفقين. Mentions قالوا إنا كنا قبل في أهلنا مشفقين. And the tafsir basically mentions that we, with our families, feared Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from the punishment of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's how we used to be in this dunya. That with our families, the way that we were, we unanimously worked on resolving the issues in our home or the fear of Allah, so we corrected our mistakes together. This was one of the reasons why they attained paradise. And why this comes to my mind is because when a person does everything he can out of the fear of Allah to protect his family and his children, Allah will grant him paradise. That I don't want that Allah takes me into account that, oh, you didn't treat your daughters well. You didn't treat your sisters well. You didn't treat your family members correctly. So out of the fear of that, I'll take care of them. There are some people that, again, we have to do what we have to do to fulfill our obligations and our responsibilities. You have to pray, you have to give zakat, you have to do all of that. But what I'm saying is that in some instances, there are certain people who in their life, for whatever reason, Allah accepts from them the things that we could not imagine. There was a person who I know who hasn't prayed salah for 50 years. 50 years he has not prayed prayer. But for whatever reason, in his heart, he has the most generous, hosting heart I have ever met in another human being. He will spend literally hundreds, if not thousands of dollars hosting people for no reason. He just wants everyone to be happy, to eat well, and make dua for him. That's it. That's his quality. I don't know. I'm not saying that he is forgiven, like Allah's not going to ask him about why you didn't pray. But what I'm saying is we don't know what Allah accepts of a person. So in any case, again, going back to this, the value of women, that our women can be the doorway, the gateway, the key, the entrance to our entering paradise. The reciprocal role of raising good women, the benefit of society in raising good women like that. What is the benefit for society? The benefit of raising a society with women who are protected like that is you get healthier homes, healthier families. You get people who are emotionally stable. You get people who are emotionally in control of themselves. There are good women that raise good children, who raise good men, who raise good women, who raise aqil people, who have intellect. They have good tarbiyah. They have good akhlaq and character. All of that comes from women. So much of that comes from good women. And this is a very interesting statistic that I wanted to share also, which was that this professor, Angelina Grigorieva, she's a doctoral candidate in sociology, told Healthline, she has a research paper that daughters provide elderly parents with an average of 12.3 hours of care per month in comparison to sons who give 5.6 hours of care to their elderly parents. Now, I don't think we needed data to show proof of this, because I think anecdotally, many people know this already, that daughters do more for their aging parents generally than their sons. But it was very interesting because based on this study alone, it showed that men also stepped up to the plate. But when, in most instances, when there was no sister in the picture. So, generally speaking, girls, daughters, are the one who are doing double the work of men when it comes to taking care of their aging parents. So now, if you have daughters, would you not want to raise them in the right way? And a lot of our culture, I said I wasn't going to open up the door of culture, but I have to say this, so much of our culture focuses on having sons only. The value of having a boy, the value of having a son. This is why in another ayah of the Quran, the girl mentions I'm just forgetting, having a mind blank right now. But in any case, where the young girl who was born and she's buried and she'll be resurrected Yawm al-Qiyamah, and she'll say, for what reason? بِأَيِّ ذَنْبٍ قُتِلَتْ. For what reason was I killed? For what reason was I murdered? You know, back the practice of Jahiliyyah, when they would have a daughter, they would bury their daughters alive, right? Because of the shame, the ar that came, the aib that came with having a daughter. But when you're old and you need help, who's going to come to your aid, right? Yeah. So we have one last hadith, but again, as a reminder to everyone, inshallah, before the next part of the session, the next 45 minutes, please have your questions ready so we can start the open discussion piece, inshallah, right after this. Hadith number 4. I'm going to actually go through this one really quickly. I don't have a lot prepared, but this is just a beautiful way to end, I thought, this 8-week course. إن الرفق لا يكون في شيء إلا زانه ولا ينزع من شيء إلا شانه. أو كما قال عليه الصلاة والسلام. You do not find a rifq or gentleness in something except that it beautifies that thing. And you do not find anything that lacks gentleness except that thing is ugly and it's considered like a blemish and not so great. Meaning, wherever you find the quality of rifq, of kindness, gentleness, whatever that thing is, whatever quality, whatever person, whatever thing you find that in, it beautifies that quality, that person, that trait. And wherever you find a lack of that, right, it makes it ugly. Let's take any example of a person who has this gentleness and kindness. Let's say you're going to go buy a car. You go to a car dealership. And the dealership guy, salesman, comes up to you and he talks to you with kindness, offers you a cup of coffee, have a seat, sees how you're doing. Are you hungry? Do you need anything? Do you want to rest for a few minutes? I know you've been walking around the car lot. Is everything okay? You know, you guys reach out to me when you need. That's totally different from most salespeople, right? That's not what a salesperson looks like. Salesperson's ready to grab you by your throat and make the sale. They don't care about how your feet feel, right? But wherever this gentleness comes up, you are beautified by it. That thing is beautified. You will love that salesman so much more. Wherever you find that quality of beauty, okay? You go to your doctor. Your child is sick. You go to your pediatrician. And the doctor treats your kid with so much love, so much gentleness. The kid is coughing, sick, sneezing, throwing up. Doctor is so kind, not, putting their hand on the head of that child. You love that doctor. You're like, my body's in pain, but yet I appreciate you so much. And then you have doctors like the doctor I had for my daughter when she was 4 months old. She had RSV, chest congestion, coughing, couldn't breathe, who walks into the office at 8 o'clock in the morning and she sees us in a panic because our daughter is having a hard time breathing. And she says, no hi, no good morning. It's 8 o'clock in the morning. And she says, okay, so you don't listen to me. You don't listen to me. If your child dies, that's not my fault. Okay? If your child dies, it's not my fault. You won't listen to me. And it doesn't matter what that doctor says after that. I don't care how your day was. For the rest of my relationship with you, I got a big X on your name. I never want to see you, never want to interact with you. I don't want to have nothing to do with you, right? Because of how ugly your traits were with me in that interaction. So the hadith al-rifq, this hadith of showing mercy, showing gentleness and kindness, what does that bring about in the person that embodies this quality? Imagine, I mean, subhanAllah, think about this as a template. In any place you go, any experience you go through, just add this formula, plug and play. Is the person who has this quality, how do they come off to you, right? Think about it. It's kind of funny. Look at your tax guy. Your tax guy is kind with you, has patience with you. Taxes are confusing. Most people don't know them. So he's asking you for documentation. You don't have documentation. He's asking you, please fill this document. You didn't do it. You didn't fill this out. You didn't. But he is very kind and humble and gentle and nice and patient. You love that guy, you know? You're so thankful to have him. Then you have other people, you know, that treat you so poorly that literally they won't even have a conversation with you if things are not done the way that they want. That's how harsh they are. I had a dentist like that one time. I had a dentist who, I'll never forget, subhanAllah. I had a dentist who, he was a very elderly man, but he was like the expert in his field of whatever it was. And I had to go to him. I was like nobody else. I had to go like 100 miles north if I wanted to go somewhere else. So I go to him, and his receptionist tells me, whatever he says, just listen to him. Don't argue. I said, okay. So he said something about like, go make your appointment now. So I forgot, what date on the calendar he said. So I said, excuse me, I forgot what date it was. And I absolutely kid you guys not, this man must have been in his 60s or 70s. No. It was above 70 for sure. He was above 70. He literally turns around, walks back to the receptionist desk, and jumps up and down like a child who's having an anger fit, screaming at the top of his lungs, I told you not to talk to me. I am not going to see you. And he tells his receptionist, do not put them on my calendar. For a 70-plus-year-old man who's a specialist, professional, whatever, all those great things, that is the way that he reacted, right? Complete lack of just humanity, let alone rifq and gentleness, just a lack of humanity. That person, it speaks for himself, right? It speaks for itself. That quality is like disgusting. Nobody would ever even want to be around such a person. So khair, in any case, this is the hadith of rifq. So there's another hadith actually that mentions inna allaha rafiqun yuhibbu ar-rifq wa yu'ti 'ala ar-rifqi ma la yu'ti 'ala al-'unfi wa ma la yu'ti 'ala ma siwahu, aw kama qala alayhi salatu wassalam. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is gentle and Allah loves gentleness. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives to the person who exemplifies this gentleness such that he does not give blessings to anybody else, right? With harshness. Al-unf is harshness, rigidity. Allah gives you more barakah, more khair in your life through gentleness than he would through your rigidity and difficulty or any other quality. With rifq and gentleness is what is the incorporation of gentleness in all things. What you achieve with gentleness and love, you cannot achieve with anger and harshness and rigidity. Some people, they're exactly this way. This is how I am. This is who I am. Deal with it. No, sir, I do not have to deal with it. I do not have to deal with you this way. And this is a cop-out. This is an excuse. This is an unfortunate reality. Many people, they treat people this way. They act this way with people. I can act however I want. This is who I am. Deal with me. No, you're not that important. I don't have to deal with you this way. I don't have to interact with you. Like that dentist, everyone was saying, there's no other dentist. You'll never find a dentist like him. He's the best dentist in the world. Just deal with it. No, I just walked out of there. I said, this man is crazy. I said, I would never work with such a person. I would never go to such a person. I'd rather lose my teeth than to work with such a crazy person. I just asked for clarification. I wasn't even trying to be obnoxious or anything. And he jumped up and down, throwing a tantrum. Never. So in any case, this is the hadith of rifq. and gentleness and kindness. I know I didn't do the key concepts with asking your points, but I wanted to end here just because we're close to time. I wanted to leave time for the discussion, Q&A, etc. But I think this is a good spot for us to stop, inshallah, and we'll start the open discussion and the Q&A segment from here. I think will be fair. I wanted to just before anybody leaves or anything like that, I just wanted to thank everyone for participating in these 8 classes. I mean, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reward all of you. I hope this was beneficial. I hope that this was something that you all benefited from, or at least learned something from interacting with Hadith, mental health and wellness. This is just one of those topics where it's necessary for us as a community to be aware of, to learn, to be aware of, knowing that this is a subject which is not exclusive to the doctor's offices or clinics or something like that. This is something which is open to all of us. This is all part of our Islamic history. This is the inheritance of the Prophet ﷺ being distributed to everybody. So we should take benefit from it. So I want to thank everyone who was able to make it, those who came for the first few classes and couldn't make it. Allah reward everybody. Please also keep me in your du'as. Ramadan is right around the corner. Please don't forget myself and Dua Seminary, Darul Ulum Ashrafiyya, our seminary, our evening courses, our students, all of yourselves. Make dua for everyone, inshallah. I will, just as a reminder, let everyone know tomorrow morning there's an email that'll be coming out at 8 a.m. I got confirmation. So whoever didn't receive the initial first email or was unable to find the recordings, the email will go out tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. So you'll receive the link for all the classes recording on there. Additionally, I will include the survey. So please, please, please fill out the survey. It's extremely important for me to know how the class was for all of you. It's just, I think, 10, 12 questions, very, very quick. I think they're just bubble. You just type it in, like select the bubble. Fill out that survey. It allows us to know what type of classes to hold for the upcoming quarter and semester, inshallah. So I'll send that out on Monday as well. So please do fill that out. So with that being said, anybody who needs to leave, of course, feel free to leave. We have about a half an hour of Q&A discussion, inshallah. So again, please take that time and write in your questions. I'll be here till the 10 o'clock time. Anybody who needs to leave, of course, can leave, but I'll just hang out here. Any questions that come in, inshallah, I will answer them as they come in. So again, jazakumullahu khairan to everybody. Thank you for joining. It was my honor and pleasure to be here with all of you. Alhamdulillah. Ameen to all the du'as. Again, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to write them in the chat box. I'm just hanging out here until I get those questions. So that way we can, inshallah, have that conversation. I guess everyone is waiting for someone else to write a question. Everyone is just kind of hanging out, mashallah. That's fine. Ramadan is a good time. This is a good kind of class to have in terms of awareness and just before Ramadan. I don't think we're going to have a lot of classes for Ramadan coming up, but definitely it's one of those. It's a good way to end the evening, end the class rather, because now we have Ramadan coming up. Allows us to reflect on all the categories that we went over. Let's just go through some of the hadith and some of the areas from day one. Interacting with hadith, mental health and wellness. We discussed sadness, depression, and grief. The story of the Prophet losing his son, that was very powerful. Modern masculinity, sadness and depression. The quality of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. لا يؤمن أحدكم حتى يحب لأخيه ما يحب لنفسه. Being considerate of others. What else? احرص على ما ينفعك واستعن بالله ولا تعجز وإن أصابك شيء فلا تقل لو أني فعلت كان كذا وكذا ولكن قل قدر الله وما شاء فعل. Yeah, for indeed the words if only open the door of opportunity for shaitan. All right. What else? The story of Talbina. MashaAllah, I was gifted some Talbina flour, which was, what did we say it was made out of? Barley flour. So I was generously gifted a bag of barley flour after this. May Allah reward her for giving it to me. We actually made some, and I'm saving the rest of it for iftar, actually, suhoor, because I wanted to see if it will be a good idea to have talbina for suhoor, because I would imagine it's a very vitamin strong, vitamin rich pudding. So I'll report back on that assessment. Okay, we got a couple of direct messages. Yeah, I should have, I guess, messaged that. If you want to send me direct messages, private messages, of course, my name is Jabir, and you can just select my name in the chat box and send it to me directly. That way I won't read your name, but I can answer your question, inshallah, to the best of my ability. Okay, I apologize for not responding to your email. Just if you could send me a follow-up email, because I know I lost it, or it got lost in the other emails. So my sincere apologies. If you could just please email me back as a reminder, I'll inshallah get to it to the best of my ability by before the end of this week. Okay. SubhanAllah, this is a very interesting question. Yeah. One second. So for this question, someone asked, is there any ahadith with regards to parenting a special needs child, or someone who has difficulty, or someone who has a child with maybe a physical ailment or mental health ailment? Because people can sometimes say, you are being punished, subhanallah, or you're not doing enough, that's so. First and foremost, let me just make this very clear. I have not come across or read anything that talk about you having a special needs child being your fault. I have never read anything about that. I have never read anything about any hadith that talk about that, as a matter of fact. However, I have read that children who experience parents who have children that have that physical, maybe physical disability, one of the things that's not directly related for the parents, but it mentions that anyone who had a physical handicap, and I don't recall the exact wording of the hadith, but I do recall that it mentions that those people who had a physical ailment or a physical handicap in this very dunya, the reward that they will receive in the akhirah and the hereafter will be such a reward that the people on Yawm al-Qiyamah will beg Allah, "Oh Allah, if only you would give us scissors, that we would cut ourselves to pieces so that we can get the same reward and ajr of this person." The person who had a physical handicap or a mental handicap, and that they received paradise as a result of their sabr and their patience. That's the first hadith that's coming to my mind just right off the bat. I can't think of anything else at the moment. I'm trying to think of any other examples that kind of come to my mind. There was a woman. Now the thing is, I know you're asking specifically with regards to parenting, but there's another instance that I remember. There was a woman. She used to have epilepsy. Well, not epilepsy. She used to have narcolepsy, where she would, I think, pass out and fall asleep and pass out, and as a result, sometimes her awra would be exposed. So she went to the Prophet and asked to make dua. So the Prophet said that, would you have me make dua that your sickness goes away, or would you rather be patient and Allah gives you Jannah? So she says, I'll be patient. I want Jannah. So she bared through it to attain that Jannah. So in understanding this hadith, as well as the other hadith, I think what we can understand from that is that it's not something that obviously is a punishment, or something that Allah put you through because you're not a good Muslim or whatever. You're not doing enough for their sickness. You should not look at it like that at all. It could be a test. Yes, that's possible. But a test doesn't mean that it's like a punishment. Does that make sense? It doesn't mean that you're having a child like that is a punishment. It just means that maybe Allah, this is your test in life. Maybe your one test in life is this thing that Allah brings you, that your child has a sickness that you have to deal with, a sickness that you have to work with. For some people, their children are born and they pass away. For some people, their children have heart conditions, or different reasons, different things. It could be that this is just your test in life. Imagine the Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam lost all of his sons because it was prescribed for him that he cannot have a son. So he witnessed the death of all of his children. Is that a punishment? No, it's not a punishment. It's a test. That's Allah's testing him in this way. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam was tested through Ismail, right? Allah says, sacrifice him. Ya abati inni ra'aytu. No. Was it with the Ya bunayya? No. Allah, Ibrahim alayhi salam says that Ya bunayya inni, or رأيت في المنام أني أذبحك فانظر ماذا ترى أو كما قال الله عز وجل. Oh my beloved son, I'm seeing in my dream that I'm slaughtering you. What do you think about that? يا أبت افعل ما تؤمر ستجدني إن شاء الله من الصابرين. Oh my beloved father, do exactly as Allah has commanded you. Certainly you will find me amongst those who are patient. So you can look at it this way. This was the test of the parent. Check another question that just came in. Okay, so another question came in that so this next question is a double entendre. This is a two for one, but it's a good question. So this question says that we just learned in the last segment how tarbiyah can shape a person as an adult. However, some people never got that right tarbiyah and they had a traumatic childhood experience. What are the best ways to build resilience for such individuals? How to help if you know someone like that? Well, first and foremost, I think I mentioned to you all that behavioral issues, etc., right? These are things that we all need to work on. That's why there's books like this that exist, Reformation of Character. You realize, you know what? I never got proper tarbiyah. I don't know how to act. I don't know how to be. So I learn about it. I learn the necessary skills once you have that realization. You know, many people have gone a long ways. Many people never got proper tarbiyah. That doesn't mean they're a lost case. Not at all. Maybe they grow up and they do stupid things. They make bad decisions. Maybe because of their friends, maybe because of their environment. But how do you move beyond that? You need to spend time with the right people, fixing your sohbah, fixing your companionship, fixing where you're learning your deen from, fixing your bad habits and being honest with yourself. There's a lot of personal development and realization that is required in order for a person to change this about themselves. And without that, what exactly do you think a person can do? I mean, first and foremost, nothing is going to change a person who they themselves don't want to change. We recognize that. So you had a bad upbringing. Okay, I completely feel your pain. But if I'm identifying for you that now you have this issue you need to work on, then what are you going to do about it? Are you going to just say, that's who I am, deal with it? Or are you going to actually put in the work and say, okay, yeah, well, now I got to figure this out? That's where this direction needs to be going. So that's number one. And if you know someone who's that way, you can kindly, gently, respectfully, knowing the right time, knowing the right place, recognize the mood, recognize the need, recognize the everything, bring it up to them. You can kindly, gently bring it up to them. Remember, I think I mentioned the story before. Someone had asked Imam Ghazali, they said, oh, Imam, what is the fatwa for the person who's tariq salat, the one who leaves the jama'ah? He doesn't come to the salat with the masjid. Everybody's waiting, with like pitchforks and getting ready to like burn his house down, like what, that mob mentality, like what are we supposed to do, et cetera, et cetera. He said very simply, he goes, the fatwa is that you go and you gently take his hand and you go to the masjid. That's the fatwa. What? No, what? But that's it. You just take his hand and you go to the masjid together gently. Rifq, love, kindness, gentleness. Yeah, we have a lot of friends. We have qualities that we just can't see that we're bad at. Someone comes and tells me, hey, you know what, Jabir? Your breath smells. You give these 2-hour lectures and then you think everybody wants to socialize with you? Go take a mint, go drink some water, take a step back. Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't really realize that. In my mind, I don't know. I didn't perceive that. Well, you need to wake up a little bit. You're a social person. You're interacting with people. Be a little bit more aware of your environment. When you're laughing with your friends in public, it's very different than when you're in private. Know how to act in public. And there are some people like that, right? Socially, how do they laugh in public? They laugh like they're in private, laughing and joking, and their mouth is wide open and they're screaming and they're shouting, and that's not appropriate. So, kindly telling them and gently reminding them. The second part of your question was the way women are perceived, that women are not valued unless they're a career woman or they have something to contribute. The only thing I can say to that is what I touched on just at the tail end of this, is that wholesome society can only be developed with the care and concern of the women. And if we don't take that into consideration, what's going to happen is we are going to be the ones who are left out. Everyone suffers. A lot of this is cultural. A lot of this is just messed up mentality. That's why this type of education is so necessary, right? These lectures, these talks, these topics, they need to happen all the time. Women need to hear them. Men need to hear them. Teenagers need to hear them. Young girls need to hear them. I think from the age of high school, I think high school is too late, actually. I think middle school is where it's at. Like this discussion that I had, just the last topic that we talked about, like the hadith of taking care of girls, that hadith and how men need to be like the wali, that discussion, from middle school, that needs to start. So that's develops in high school, develops in college, develops when it's time to get married, so that your worldview is this way. Not just that, I don't know. Well, this is how these things get passed on, right? Like no change comes about. But the way that it actually gets brought up and like you learn, etc. But basically on this point that our worldview needs to shift. That's the only way to really address this. Education, more conversations like this, and earlier. And I hope that answers that question. And in all honesty, though, the person who says this, that a woman has no value unless she's a career woman, with all due respect to wherever that person's coming from, maybe it's primarily a financial point of view and they need help financially, but that makes just no sense to me. Let's take the Islamic or the Shaykhness out of this really quickly and just look at woman as a member of society. How could you say a woman has no value in society unless she's a career woman? Society, it falls to a complete stop without the woman in the home, without the tarbiyah of the woman, without the tarbiyah of the woman in the family. All of society grinds to a halt. That makes no sense. So I guess it's the perception, it's the perception of where people are coming from. People come from all sorts of different places, so they're it's oftentimes very skewed. Okay. May Allah reward you for your whatever challenges you're experiencing and whatever pain and suffering you're going through, and the things that people say to you or who have, to parents who have special needs children. Allah rectify them, because there are a lot of people that speak from a place of arrogance, and if Allah puts them in that position that you're in, they will break. They will completely break. But you are going through it because Allah knows you can handle it. Because Allah knows that you can handle this test. Allah gave you this test. If that person who said such a hurtful comment to you was in your position, Allah knows their condition, but they would break, They could not tolerate that. Allah make it easy. For my son who needs a positive male role model in his life, who may not have one through a father or a grandfather, what is the best approach to take? He's a teenager. So in my, again, just personal assessment on this issue is that if he does not have a role model in this way, in the standard way, I would just make a suggestion that find a community, find a masjid, find an imam, find a good group of brothers that you feel like your son can be around, so that he can learn those skills and those qualities. This is crucial. There's a hadith that mentions that al-mar'u ala dini khalilihi falyanzur ahadukum man yukhalil. A person is on the religion of his friend. Therefore, be aware and conscious of who your friends are. So, good company. Inshallah, that will fulfill that role. Additionally, you as the mother can also play that role in a way that, good qualities, good ethics, good traits, good nasiha, working for his betterment, hoping and wishing for only, good things for him. These things will have just the same effect, inshallah. But a strong male figure you can get from very good friends, inshallah ta'ala. Allah keep you all happy, inshallah. Your words are very kind. I truly, from the bottom of my heart, pray that Allah alleviates your suffering, your difficulties, your hardships, your challenges, your pain, whatever you may be going through. Allah accept all of your halal du'as and goals and aspirations and make things easy for you all, inshallah. I do hope that, inshallah, this Ramadan is a Mubarak time for all of you. Okay, let's see here. Yeah. And yep, so we just have a few more minutes, inshallah. Like I said, about 7-8 minutes, so we'll stay here. If there's any other questions, of course, feel free to ask your questions, and we'll go ahead and wrap it up at the end. Let's see here. Okay, I think we got info on the survey. So I think the survey, inshallah, will be sent out either in the same email or in another email. So just look out for that email, inshallah. Please fill out that survey. It'll just kind of be a guider for our classes in the future, so that every class that we have after this one is a little bit more in line with what the students need and what they think is what they deem more helpful for their ability to learn. We want to hold more of these classes that are interactive and also that have visuals like a PowerPoint or something, so that it's just a little bit easier. So, inshallah. Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. That's an absolutely valid point. And that's why I said it blows my mind at how a person could say that a woman or a mother or someone who is raising a family or taking care of a home or is in that position, it is very shocking to hear from someone to assume that they are not, or to hear that their classification of that is that they are not an active member of society. The ability to raise a human being in and of itself is a lifetime achievement. It is a huge honor. It's a great, success. And anyone who thinks that, that doesn't matter, they're unfortunately living in some kind of skewed reality, to be quite honest with you. It makes no sense, right? It's the same argument of like the Jahiliyyah Arabs when they would say women have no value. No, women have no value. What do you mean by that? Surely you have to respect the woman that gave birth to you. You have to give respect to the one who raised you. You have to give respect to the one who you married, right? You have to respect the woman that you married. So, and then of course, when you have a child, right? How could you not respect the girl the daughter that you raised? I myself, and again, it's just anecdotal sharing, just based on my own experiences. I grew up in a house with three boys, three brothers. Three brothers is, I can only imagine, life was miserable for my own mother. It couldn't have possibly been pleasant at all. But I have two daughters, and it is so unlike anything I've ever experienced in my entire life, really, to such an extent that I think most people that say negative things are because usually they don't experience it in the same way, or they are just unfamiliar with their emotions or this ability to recognize this. But undeniably, a father who raises his child, his daughter, not real, and doesn't feel that warmth or doesn't feel that love, that attention, that kindness, etc. It's not that it's not coming to them. It's that their perception of that is skewed, and that they're the ones who are not perceiving it because of their whatever mentality or whatever their views are about having a daughter. So again, all we can ask for is that Allah guide people, open up their hearts, make them see the reality. Make dua, Allahumma arina al-haqqa haqqan warzuqna ittiba'a wa arina al-batila batilan warzuqna ijtinaba. Allah, allow us to see truth as truth and allow us to follow it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allow us to see falsehood as falsehood and allow us to abstain from it. And we ask Allah that in conclusion, Allah make us people of guidance and save us from being people of misguidance. That whenever we have a question, we turn back to the ulama and the righteous people and the scholars and get our deen from there, as opposed to, losing ourselves or following culture or following people that don't know what they're talking about. And we ask Allah for salah and goodness in everything that we do, for tawfiq, for afiyah, for khair, for goodness. I pray for everyone that their Ramadan this year is Mubarak, is blessed, it's life-changing, it's transformative. I pray everyone has their duas accepted. Please again keep me in your duas, my family, my children, this seminary, dua seminary that you took this class on behalf of, through. Make dua for our success and our growth and the ultimate success of these courses and these programs. So with that, inshallah, again, I thank everybody. We'll go ahead and conclude now. I look forward to seeing you all in future classes, but I pray everyone has a good Ramadan and a happy Eid. So with that, inshallah, I bid everyone a farewell. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu to everyone. Take care, inshallah.